Okay, let me ask you this. You get a new feature idea, maybe a product request. What's your very first move?
Hmm.
Do you, instantly open up Figma or whatever tool you use?
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Start dragging in buttons, text fields, making it look like something?
That instinct is strong, definitely.
If that's you, well, you're not alone. We all kind of feel that pull towards the visuals.
Hmm.
But the sources we're looking at today, they argue product design doesn't really start there. Not with colors or pixels.
No, it starts with clarity. That's the key word.
Clarity.
And yeah, that clarity is exactly what this deep dive is all about. We're using these sources, especially bits on wireframing for product designers,
Yeah.
to really get into wireframing.
So not just what it is.
Right, not just the definition, but why it's so crucial, why it's, a fundamental thinking tool.
Okay. Less about presentation.
Exactly. More about bringing structure to those raw ideas that are just sort of swirling around.
It's like building a house, right? You wouldn't start picking paint colors.
Or furniture.
Yeah, or furniture before you even have the blueprint, the actual structure.
You need the foundation first.
These sources are saying wireframes are that blueprint. Structure first, decoration way later, the skeleton before the skin.
Nicely put.
So, okay, let's dig into that blueprint idea. What exactly is a wireframe in this context?
Well, the source defines it pretty clearly.
Hmm?
It's a low-fidelity visual layout.
Yep.
Could be one screen, could be a set of screens.
And low fidelity is the important part there, yeah.
Absolutely key. It is specifically not trying to be pretty. That's not the goal at all.
So its whole purpose is clarity, function.
Precisely. Function over aesthetics every time at this stage. These basic layouts, they help you answer the big questions early.
Like what?
Like what absolutely has to be on this screen? What's most important? That's the hierarchy question.
Okay.
And, what's clickable? What's just text or an image? Defining the absolute bones of the interface.
It really does keep coming back to that building blueprint, doesn't it?
It's a great analogy.
You figure out where the load-bearing walls go, where the doors are, how you move between rooms, before you worry about the color of the walls or the type of carpet.
Exactly. Because changing a wall later, oh, that's painful and expensive.
Right, and that pain of changing things later is exactly why the sources really, hammer home the importance of starting low fidelity.
There's a very practical reason architects use blueprints, and it's the same reason designers should use wireframes. It just makes sense.
So the logic, according to the source, it's all about speed, flexibility.
Both. When you're working lo-fi, you can move super fast, sketch ideas, test them almost instantly.
And you don't get too attached.
That's maybe the biggest benefit. You can make huge changes, radical shifts, without that emotional weight that builds up when something looks polished.
Yeah, I spent ages making this look nice feeling.
Exactly. That kills the willingness to change. Lo-fi lets you explore, tons of different solutions and just toss out what doesn't stick quickly.
And the tools for this. The source mentions basic stuff, right? Paper, whiteboard.
Yeah, or digital whiteboards like Miro, FigJam. Simple tools. The power isn't the tool itself, it's that they make it easy and low stakes to just experiment.
Keep you in pencil mode, not pixel mode.
That's the phrase. Stay messy, think freely, don't lock yourself into the pixels too soon.
Okay, and here's the big pitfall the source warns about. This is really interesting. Once it starts looking too good, too high fidelity,
Uh-oh.
your team and you yourself, you get attached. It feels done.
And that attachment is deadly for flexibility. It just stops it cold.
It makes it so much harder to question the basic structure later, even if it's not quite right.
Yeah, even if it's not working for the user or the goal, it's like this cognitive bias kicks in,
Yeah.
protecting the pretty thing you made.
So a really practical tip from the source here, bring the rough stuff to early reviews.
Yes. Purposefully bring rough wireframes, not polished mock-ups.
Why? To force the conversation.
Exactly. It forces feedback onto the structure, the flow, the information hierarchy, the function. It stops people getting bogged down in, the exact shade of blue.
When you haven't even decided if you need that button there at all.
Right. Make sure you're talking about the right things at the right stage.
Okay, so we get what it is, why lo-fi is crucial for speed, flexibility, avoiding attachment. But how do you actually do it well? How do you wireframe like a pro?
According to the source material, it all starts with the user's goal. Fundamentally.
For every screen, every flow.
Yep. Ask yourself, what is the user actually trying to do here?
Okay, so the user goal drives everything.
It dictates the structure, what needs to be prominent. The source gives good examples. like a login screen.
Is it just about getting in?
Or maybe they need password recovery right there. Or some reassurance about security. That changes things.
Or a dashboard?
What's the single most critical piece of info they need instantly? What's number one?
Makes sense. And a checkout flow.
What could possibly stop them? What's the friction point? Knowing that goal is your North Star for the layout.
Right, so you structure the wireframe around that specific goal, and the sources give some guiding principles too, right, to keep you on track.
Yeah, some really practical ones. Like use real content, or as close to real as possible.
Ditch the lorem ipsum.
Please. Yes. Using real text, real data, it immediately shows you if things fit, if labels work, if the hierarchy actually makes sense in practice.
Okay, real content. What else?
Stick to grayscale. Black, white, gray. Maybe one highlight color if you absolutely must, but sparingly.
Keep the focus on layout, spacing, hierarchy.
Not colors or branding. Not yet. And start with the big blocks, the skeleton. Yeah. Header, body, footer. Don't get lost in tiny details early on.
Right, the basics first.
And another really powerful idea from the source. Think in flows, not just single screens.
Yeah. Screens don't exist alone?
Rarely.
Yeah.
What happens before this screen? What comes after? How does the user get from A to B to C? Map the journey, not just one spot.
It's about the whole sequence.
Which brings us back to the core idea. Wireframing isn't about artistic skill.
It's about thinking visually.
Exactly. Thinking visually about structure, hierarchy, flow, processing those complex ideas about the user's path.
Okay, so it sounds straightforward when we lay it out, but the sources also mention common traps, right? Pitfalls.
Oh, yeah. Even with good intentions, it's easy to mess this up. They list 5 specific mistakes that really undermine the whole point.
Good to know what to avoid. What are they?
Okay, number 1. Starting in high fidelity too soon. We talked about this one a lot.
Right, the attachment problem. Kills flexibility, leads to rework.
Yep. Number 2, skipping wireframes entirely.
Just jumping straight to visuals, like building without a blueprint.
Exactly. The source implies you're almost guaranteed structural problems later, expensive ones.
Okay, mistake 3.
Designing alone, in a silo.
Wireframes are communication tools,
You're
right?
great ones. Working alone means you miss vital early feedback, you develop blind spots, you waste effort going down a path that maybe wouldn't work.
Makes sense. Number 4.
Overloading with unnecessary details. Adding colors, specific fonts, gradients, detailed icons.
It defeats the purpose of low fidelity.
Completely. It just distracts everyone, including you, from the core structural questions. Keep it simple.
And the last one, number 5.
Using fake content. We mentioned using real content as a principle.
So the mistake is using lorem ipsum or placeholder images.
Right. Because it stops you confronting the reality of how actual content behaves, the length, the flow, the messaging. Your layout might just break with real stuff.
Wow. Okay. Those 5 mistakes really clarify things. They underline that wireframes aren't just like bureaucratic, busy work.
Not at all. They're a tool to help you and your team think clearly, to focus on the actual user problem first.
So zooming out again, the sources call wireframes the product's skeletal system.
The essential framework holding everything else together, the UI, the content, the code.
They're not just throwaway sketches then, they're actually critical maps.
When done right, absolutely.
Yep.
They help the whole team see the landscape, the whole flow.
Before you commit to the heavy lifting of detailed UI and development.
And helps you catch those big problems when they're still easy and cheap to fix.
Right. Much cheaper to change a box on a wireframe than refactor code.
Infinitely cheaper. And this structure, this flow thinking, it leads naturally to the next step the source hints at, prototyping.
Taking these static wireframes and making them clickable.
Basically, yeah. Simple prototypes built from wireframes let you test your structural ideas, your flow ideas with real users. Get feedback before you build.
Validate the core concepts first. So, thinking about applying this, for you listening, here's a thought to chew on.
Okay.
What assumptions might you be making right now? What big structural problems might be hiding in plain sight? Just because you skipped this wireframing step.
Oof. That's a tough question.
How much effort, costly redesigns, painful dev rework, maybe even building the wrong thing entirely?
Yeah.
How much could this simple step save you?
Just by forcing you to validate the structure and the flow first.
Before you fall in love with the pixels.
It's a compelling case for shifting focus, isn't it? From just making things look good immediately to getting the foundation right first. Clarity before decoration.
Something to definitely think about for your next project.